Our next story came to us from a viewer email, and the young woman who wrote it was also the person who experienced this very unusual miracle. It concerns a dream, so real and so vivid that she would spend years trying to understand it. And when she finally unraveled its meaning, her life was changed forever. In 1990, Delena Gilliam was serving in the Navy, stationed at Patuxent River, Maryland. Her immediate supervisor was a man named Hank Spinelli.
He was very good in training me, very patient.
And everything in this vest is tied in with a bowline knot.
He seemed to be so attentive and peaceful in the shop. I think I felt very comfortable with him.
And the feeling was mutual.
I just liked how she spoke. We found ourselves talking about things that I never was able to talk to anyone else about. No matter what religion you're in.
It was more a friendship than anything. But as time went on, I got to know him a little better, and my feelings grew.
But Delena wasn't prepared to follow her heart.
I had joined the Navy after a divorce, and my relationship with Hank at that time was growing closer, and I wasn't ready to get back into a relationship. After I had worked in the shop with Hank for about a year, I really felt like it was time for me to make some changes in my life, and I decided to get out of the Navy. And I went overseas for a while just to experience a new way of life.
Delena chose the island of Samoa to begin her new life.
It was a refreshing place to live, and it really gave you a feeling of tranquility and peace. And it gave me a chance to look deeper within myself to see what was really important in life.
And then one night, a dream took her into an even deeper place.
In the dream, I saw myself in an operating room. I was laying on the table, and I felt great pain in my lower abdomen, and I looked down, and there were stitches running up to my navel. And then I saw a doctor to my right, and he passed the baby across to someone on my left. And the thing I noticed was the baby was very fair in color. And then I looked up and I saw Hank Spinelli standing across the room at the operating door. He looked very concerned, but he didn't speak. And then at that point I heard a voice say, "It's not a girl, but you'll be just as happy." I woke up from the dream thinking, wow, what could this be? What does it mean if Hank is standing there? What part is he playing in it? Because I hadn't seen him in years and hadn't planned on seeing him either. I wrote the dream down, and as time went on, I would think about the dream and then put it aside. And then after a while, it sort of faded from my memory and I didn't think about it anymore. Eventually, I left Samoa and decided to go see an old Navy friend in Ohio.
Delena's friend Michelle was one of the few people who also knew Hank.
One night we were watching television. The news came on and they were telling of a man who had committed a crime, and his name was Spinelli. And each time they would say Spinelli, I would look up.
You seem pretty interested in the name Spinelli still. A little. When are you gonna call him?
I can't call him. I mean, I don't have his number. I wouldn't know how to reach him.
Lena, come on. All you have to do is a search on the internet.
And I look at her and I said, oh no, he could be anywhere in the world. But then I thought about it a little more, and then later I went and got on the computer and went on the Navy locator and put his name in, not thinking that anything would come up. 200 Spinellis came up, but only one was a match.
Petty Officer Spinelli, phone call.
Hank was now stationed in San Diego, California, not expecting to hear from the woman he'd never stopped loving.
Pier 1 Spinelli, can I help you? It was Delena, and she said that she had been doing some searching on the internet and found my name. I was just completely taken back. I was nervous, I was knocking things over. I was, felt like a little school kid. Yeah, no, I'm not married. At first I didn't know what to make of the phone call, and I think I said something inane, like if I got a chance I'd send her a new recipe that I had read about in a magazine.
It was like all of these emotions over years had just been building up. And now he's talking about recipes.
She promptly, after that phone call, writes me a letter and pretty much calls me an idiot and describes the real reason why she was calling, which is that she had a dream and she was pretty sure that we were destined to get together. And then she flat out asked me how I felt about that. I think I fessed up to having tremendous feelings for her. I woke up one day and I just sent her some roses. I knew she'd be surprised. I didn't want to tell her. I just wanted to send them to her.
After time went on, we really knew that we wanted to be together again, and this time we wouldn't let it get lost.
I just have to be honest. I have to be...
But as happy as Delena was, she was also apprehensive.
Well, yeah, about coming out. She says that there's no way she's going to come out here and live with me without getting married. Yeah, I understand that. I understand that. And I said, well, that's fine because I think I want to marry you. And I think I just blurted that out.
6 weeks later, after 8 years of separation, Hank and Delena were married.
After we were married for about 2 months, I went to the hospital and had a pregnancy test, and it was positive. I'm like, I know this is a boy.
There he is.
And we were both so excited and so happy. The dream, it already seemed to unfold. Then, about 3 months later, we had another ultrasound done, and the baby hadn't turned yet. And the doctor told me that it would probably turn, just give it a little time. Usually they turn within the 8 months. He still didn't turn. They scheduled the C-section for the last week of my pregnancy.
The night before Delena was scheduled for her cesarean delivery, she began having labor pains. Nurse Leslie Trentelage was on duty that night.
There was no medical emergency going on, so I was able to describe to her that doctors usually do a horizontal cut, which we call a bikini cut. And I was joking around. I said, well, that's so you can wear a bikini next summer when it's time for bathing suit weather. And she kind of looked at me and said, well, you mean it's not a vertical incision?
The reason I asked is because I had this dream.
She told me about the dream, and she remembers a vertical incision. And I said, well, no, those are a lot more difficult to heal from, and the recovery time is a lot quicker with a bikini cut.
In preparation for the surgery, another ultrasound was performed. The results were a surprise to everyone.
They found out he had turned. So we were so happy. Yay, he turned. We don't have to have an operation.
Primary C-section.
But their happiness was short-lived. The baby's heart rate began fluctuating abnormally. Delena was rushed to the operating room and Dr. Elizabeth Adriano.
After we got her to the back and the baby's heart rate was dropping, at that point it became very concerning that she needed to be delivered immediately. And when we discovered that the baby was sitting right within the vaginal canal, that's when we decided to apply the forceps and deliver.
And I saw him pass by, but I didn't hear him cry. He couldn't breathe. He was basically dying. And so they rushed him and put him on the oxygen. And that's the last part I remember because I had lost so much blood, I just blacked out.
The dark side of Delena's dream was coming true.
She kept bleeding. Her blood pressure was dropping. I realized that we had an emergency and we needed to proceed with surgery. I was afraid that she was going to die if we did not remove her uterus and stop her bleeding.
But before she could operate, Dr. Adriano would need Hank's permission.
it's just not stopping. And it's reached the point now where it's become critical.
That was probably the scariest day in my life. I saw the possibility that in one fell swoop, I could very easily lose my entire family.
There was nothing for Hank to do but wait and pray.
Right now, I need 2 more standing by. Underneath that. Right now, I need another large bore IV started in that arm, please. And I'd like 1 meter normal saline open, wide open.
We ended up making a vertical incision in the skin that extended from approximately her belly button down to her pubic bone.
Delena's dream had come true in amazing detail. From the vision of Hank standing by, to the gender and complexion of her baby boy, to the scar the ordeal left on her body.
It's amazing. The dream had just unfolded. Everything came out the same way that I had seen it.
Delena and her son, Michael Paul Spinelli, were released from the hospital after only 3 days.
You know, the fact that they pulled through and I now have a really, really beautiful baby. I think we've been blessed by God. I really do. I just think it's a miracle.
Each night when we go in and put him down, we just stand there for a few minutes and look at him and see how amazing he is and realize that, wow, this was all preordained and we're like part of it. It's just amazing.
You know, some people say that you can't live a dream. I just have to disagree. I think we are living proof of that. We are living Lena's dream. We are living it right now. We are.
What a beautiful child, and what a wonderful story he'll have to tell about the circumstances of his birth. But was this an isolated case? Or can we all learn about the future from our dreams? To find out the answers, we're now joined by dream expert Cynthia Richmond. Hello there.
Hi, Richard.
Thanks for joining us.
It's always great to be with you.
Well, let's start with Delena's dream. How would you interpret it?
Well, most dreams do merit interpretation, but this dream is very literal. Every single thing that Lena saw vividly and felt in the dream came to pass years and years later. In this case, this literal style of dream really feels more like a message or guidance. My image is that angels were whispering in her ear early on, just preparing her so that when the time came, it wouldn't be as shocking, as difficult. Also, perhaps encouraging her to, when she thought of it, get in contact with Mr. Spinelli.
So how can we tell if what we're dreaming is going to come true?
Okay, we all dream every night. Most of us forget most of our dreams. That's why it's so significant that Lena did remember this one. If you remember a dream, jot it down. It's very helpful to have that as reference. When a dream seems especially vivid like this one, where there's smells and sights and tastes and textures, and the reality seems even more vivid than usual, pay special attention to those dreams. So we're never quite sure if a dream is symbolic or if it's going to happen. There is a sense, though, of reality, more vividness, more clarity, very often, with a dream that will come true. So jotting that down, paying attention, keeping it filed in the back of your mind for reference can be very helpful.
Well, thanks for the tips. Before I let you go, what are you working on now?
I'm actually working on a second book. You've talked about my book, Dream Power, in the past, and now I'm working on one where people can enhance the ability of working with their dreams. Many miracles happen through the dream state, and I'm working on an expanded knowledge of that and getting to hear stories from people all over the world.
Well, I look forward to reading it and to seeing you again. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Bye.
Bye-bye.